Hey y'all, it's Nay. Welcome back to my little corner of YouTube. This video will contain spoilers for Reality Check, the America's Next Top Model docuseries on Netflix. So if you haven't seen it yet and you do not want spoilers, save this video and come back after you do. You are about to hear my thoughts on the docuseries, but of course I want to hear yours, so feel free to drop your thoughts below if you do want to participate in the conversation, and give this video a like and a hype before you go. So I'm just going to tell y'all right now, I am probably going to have some opinions that do not fall in line with the majority. I'm telling you that straight up. You might leave here mad at me. I don't hate Tyra Banks after seeing this. I don't hate production after seeing this. I think they fucked up several times, but I'm not grabbing my pitchfork. I think Tyra Banks and a lot of things in life are nuanced, and so really my commentary on this is going to be exploring a lot of the nuances within this show and within a lot of the scandals surrounding this show. First off, before we jump into the meat and potatoes of the documentary, and there are meat and potatoes, this is very much a stew, okay? It's meaty. What I'm not going to let y'all do is act like Tyra Banks did not earn her keep. Look at how these people spoke about her just because she was black.
6 agencies, and the first 5 said no. They were like, oh, we don't want any black girls. Oh, your nose is too big. Oh, your lips are too full.
There's actually an interview accompanying this striking Fabrizio Ferri photograph. I saw Tyra Banks in person yesterday. Nobody in the Four Seasons recognized Tyra Banks. She had her clothes on.
It's actually pretty much the same way that they speak about black women today, so I guess not much has changed. I do love that whoever produced this docuseries seemed to have a sense of humor. They led with the, I was rooting for you.
You know that all of America is rooting for you? Do you know that? When my mother yells at this, it's because she loves me. I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you?
And then they showed a few of the many times that people have reenacted that scene.
I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you?
And I thought it was pretty funny because that scene really is infamous. And since we're already here, let's talk about it. So the woman in that scene who Tyra Banks is yelling at is Tiffany Richardson. And I'm going to be honest, the context changed my mind on that scene. Knowing that Tiffany was not just some random contestant, she had been on a previous season and got eliminated for getting into a fight. And Tyra and production actually worked with her off cam, off season, got her anger management classes, helped her work through some stuff. And so there was a deeper relationship there than just, I'm Tyra Banks and I'm yelling at this random contestant. They had history. They had built, even if loosely, some type of bond, some type of caring. And they really did work with her to get to a healthier mental state. And then when she came back on the show, they welcomed her back.
I don't jump on people and throw glasses and stuff like that anymore.
And so I really do think that Tyra was yelling at her out of love. And you know, I've told bits and pieces of my story before, but I know what it's like to be an angry person because of how you grew up, because I used to be that person. Until I had someone call me out on it. They didn't yell at me like Tyra yelled at Tiffany. It was a boss. Much like in this situation, Tyra's in a boss-like role. They were like, look, you seem to be a little, a little mad sometimes, and I understand. I see you, and I can tell that you may have had a rough upbringing because I was that person, and I see it in you. That was the first time in my life I ever had an adult, because I was a teenager when this happened. That was the first time in my life I had an adult acknowledge that my pain was real. My pain was valid. And she wasn't stereotyping me. I very much was an angry person. So she was 100% valid in that. And so I can see both sides. I understand why Tiffany was angry. I understand what it's like to grow up a little rough and have that paint the rest of your life.
I don't have a bad attitude. Maybe I am angry inside. I've been through stuff, so I'm angry.
Especially when you're still as young as she was. Y'all gotta keep in mind, a lot of the girls, and I'm calling them girls because they were girls when they came on this show, were freshly 18, 19, 20, 21. Fresh out of high school. I consider a 21-year-old fresh out of high school. I don't care. Like, because your mind is just, it takes a bit to get out of that high school mindset. Then you go to college and you're still learning how to become an adult. And so these are young girls that are going on this show. She had not dealt with that pain yet, just like I had not dealt with it at 18, 19, 20, 21. And so I understand her anger, but I also think sometimes you need somebody to call you out on it. Now, caveat, had my boss yelled at me, I may not have taken her message as well as I did, because if she would have yelled at me, I would have been like, bitch, who the fuck you talking to? But the way that she presented it to me was, look, I see you, I understand you, but you have to work through it. I cried in her office when she told me that. I was like, but it was literally for the first time in my young life that I felt somebody fucking sees me. And so I get being in Tiffany's shoes, and I also see what Tyra was saying. I genuinely do think she yelled at her out of love. On top of that, the moment really was bigger than Tiffany. As we say these days, Tiffany was not bigger than the program. Tiffany was the personification for hope for little black girls who wanted to be in the modeling industry, whether she wanted to be or not.
I felt like she could have been a supermodel.
with a capital S.
And let's be very clear, black supermodels were not the norm. Even if you look at someone like Tyra, she's the exception to the rule. She's light skinned, light eyes, her hair is pressed, so it's straight, it's white passing. She's the exception to the black girl rule. You look at somebody like me, brown skin, dark features, we're not the exception to the rule. We're the reason that the rule exists. I believe wholeheartedly when Tyra saw her, okay, this is just a black girl, she's gorgeous, she's talented. I want her to break that glass ceiling for young black girls. I think she saw that hope in her. And when she saw her essentially give up, it was hurtful, not only to Tyra personally because she had put in work to help her get to a better place, but also hurtful to all the little black girls who were like Tiffany, who now felt it's okay to just give up. And Tiffany did give up. Let's not sugarcoat it.
The girls were tasked with reading a teleprompter filled with all these, designer names, a lot of French names. Pretty much they were set up to fail.
Now looking back at it, I think it was less about the fact that the teleprompter was moving quickly. That could have been a little bit of it, but less about the fact that the teleprompter was moving quickly or the names were difficult to say. I personally think, this is the conclusion that I'm drawing, that Tiffany just had a fear or anxiety around reading aloud. I say that because when she does give up, even after Tyra says, if you don't do this, you're going home, all the other girls struggled as well. Nobody knew how to say it. That's the point of it. It's just to be confident through adversity or whatever they were trying to prove with that challenge. When Tyra looked at her and said, if you don't do it, you're going home, she said it was humiliating. And I rewatched that a few times and I was like, what would be humiliating about this? I don't think that she was saying it was humiliating to be going home. I think she was saying that having to read aloud was humiliating. Hear me out. She starts to read it and she's even stumbling through. She hadn't even gotten to the names yet. She's kind of stumbling her way through even the beginning.
Hi, I'm Tiffany. It's Fashion Week in Paris. Technicolor is the name of the game. I can't do this.
If you don't do this, you're gonna go home.
This is humiliating.
And you know how when you were a kid and your teacher would call on you to read and you just weren't a type of person who you just weren't the type of person who liked to read aloud. I think she got that same type of classroom anxiety and she was like, ooh, I don't want to do this. I don't feel like I'm good at this or I can't keep up or whatever. And that's why it was humiliating for her because it brought her back to that place. I don't think she was saying that the challenge in and of itself was humiliating. I think it was the reading aloud part. That's why I say I can really see both sides of that situation. Now, of course, that's based on what we saw, right? Manuel said, hey, it's parts of that confrontation or that conversation, if that's what you want to call it, that meme that I don't think I will ever repeat and that we as the audience will likely never see. So maybe Tyra said some other things that weren't so heartfelt. But from what I saw, what they have released to the public, I do think that that was from a place of love. Now, in 2020, when everyone was stuck inside and revisiting a lot of old TV shows that they hadn't seen in a while simply because they had time to, America's Next Top Model was one of those shows that people started rewatching. And so the show got a resurgence, but under a 2020 lens, which is very important.
Tyra Banks should have been called out years ago.
He's perpetuating a narrative constructed by a multi-billion.
If you've ever watched any of my other commentary, then you know how I tend to feel about things like this. I am very much of the opinion that things were just different back then.
Plus size modeling did not exist. I mean, that wasn't even a thing.
There was a lot of body shaming, but then again, we have to remember this is 25 years ago. Like, we were different back then.
And I think that's a key point that people do not like to acknowledge, especially people who weren't alive or were way too young to have any sort of understanding about a TV show like that. They like to say, well, I don't care if that's how it was back then. Okay, but you have to care, because in order to have an informed discussion about it, you have to realize that society didn't care. In fact, society thought it was funny. And so you want people to be angry about something back then that wasn't for them to be angry about. That doesn't make it right. It was wrong, but what I'm saying is the conversation starts to shift when it was accepted by society. You can't cancel somebody for something that they did when it was accepted by society. That's kind of how I see things. And that actually is one huge issue that I have with cancel culture, because one of the goals of cancel culture is to get someone to acknowledge that they were wrong and learn and grow from that and don't do those things again. And then when someone comes out years later and says, hey, I was 18, 19 when I wrote that tweet. That's not who I am anymore. I've changed and I've grown. And then people will say, no, you don't get to change. No, we saw the tweet. And it's like, did you want them to change and grow or not? I think when it's been 20 plus years, y'all got to learn to let shit go. And then my second issue with cancel culture is y'all like to pick and choose who's canceled and who's not. There are people with open cases right now for things that they were canceled for. So meaning they haven't stopped doing it. And y'all are buying VIP tickets to take pictures with them. So I don't want to hear anything about cancel culture from y'all. And so because of that reason, I'm not grabbing my pitchfork to say, oh my God, the judges were calling people fat. Such is the industry, okay? Under the 2026 lens, yeah, it's unfortunate that they did that to people. But that just was the industry back then. And honestly, if you needed another sign of the times.
I want to know if it's okay if my girlfriend come over for about an hour or two today.
Ebony's a lesbian, and I found this offensive.
Now, Tyra was deflecting a little bit.
I want you guys to be just as open as I am now about getting called on my shit for when somebody calls you out on yours. Because that day will come.
Not talking about other people being called out. We talking about you being called out right now. Let's stick to the topic at hand. I think what Whitney said was spot on.
It didn't age well, but it was also a reflection of the time. That's exactly how it was. The only reason the door was open to me was because of Tyra.
Whitney is the first plus-size winner of America's Next Top Model. And I know how hard she fought for that title because it was unheard of for anyone to be over a size 2. Keenyah from Psycho 4 wouldn't be considered anywhere near plus-size today. But during her season, they labeled her as the plus-size girl. And they body-shamed her entire show run. And they were essentially blaming her for having a uterus. I mean, there's not much going on there.
This photo is really beautiful, Keenyah, but I hate to say it. They had to do a lot of body work on you and retouching.
If you're sporting a gut, then you turn to the side and disguise it.
I would love to change the rules, but until that happens, I think it's all about choices, Keenyah. You can get a burger and take the bread off.
The girl can snack like no other.
I don't think Keenyah is watching what she eats. That's what the judges keep telling her. That's what they keep complaining about. And I really don't see that much progress.
Keenyah also talks about being violated on one of the shoots. I think she definitely should have been protected more than she was.
Male models were supposed to dance around us. Bertini was like touching me, grabbing me. I really felt that he was just taking advantage of the moment.
When I look at that shoot, it's clear to me that that male model was overstepping the boundaries. And he was definitely getting handsy with Keenyah, even though she kept turning down his advances. And in my opinion, she made it very clear that she was not interested in this man. But when she stood up for herself, it was made to seem as though she was being too much.
What's the issue?
I know it's not about feeling comfortable, but hearing moaning, it just threw me off.
Moaning where?
Like on me, like, I'm sorry, I just didn't feel comfortable.
We're here in a professional situation. There are like 50 of us sitting here on set.
Right.
We're going with the flow.
And I can't touch on that topic without touching on the fact that Black women are often made to feel like they're being too much. And I know how hard it was for her to speak up because in any industry, you never want to be labeled as the Black woman who's difficult to work with because you will never work again. But especially in an industry like the entertainment or beauty industry, when it is so small and so tight-knit, and those doors close a lot faster than they open. And everybody knows everybody. You don't want to be known for the person that's difficult to work with. Manuel did say, look, there are 50 people on set. Nothing's going to happen to you. We're all standing right here. But I think Shandi would disagree with that. And I also think that was disregarding her feelings. She's saying, no, something is happening. And they're telling her, well, just roll with it. Just be in the zone, be in the moment. And she's like, okay, but the moment is upsetting me. Like the moment is making me feel uncomfortable. And they're like, we're going to keep shooting. They viewed it as her complaining, whereas she felt like it was a violation of her space and her body. And she's absolutely right. Even in that photo, that final photo that they picked for her best photo, he was grabbing right underneath her ass.
The fact that the photo that was chosen is a photo of Bertini literally grabbing my legs. Are we gonna really choose the shot where he's grabbing her in the shot? I mean, the receipts are right there.
So yeah, I think she should feel validated even all these years later. It's very clear what was happening. Now, Tyra also spoke on this, and at the time, this is what she told her.
Like with your feminine wiles, like, boy, you best to back up before I knock you upside the head. But you do it in a fun way where he knows to back the heck up, but it doesn't really put static in the air because then it makes you uncomfortable.
In hindsight, not good enough. Tyra was putting the onus on Keenyah to not only confront the person who she felt was violating her, but to do it in a lighthearted way and and joke about it to make him feel more comfortable. And to me, this is no different than men being like, you need to smile more. Why? Because it doesn't make them feel good when they don't see a woman smiling. They think women only exist to make them happy. And so if they tell you to smile, they expect you to smile. And in fact, they expect not to even have to tell you to smile. It made me feel like that, like, oh, you want me to do something to make a man feel more comfortable. Why am I doing that? As a woman, why is it on me to make him feel comfortable when he's the one who's making me feel uncomfortable? But I do think I understand what Tyra was trying to say. I think that Tyra had been in the industry for a long time, worked in the industry for a long time, and I think she knew what happens to black women who are too vocal, and to women in general, honestly, who are too vocal on set. And in that moment, she was telling her, look, girl, there's a way to tell him to back the hell up without making it seem like you're the angry black woman. The way that I saw it, basically, Tyra was telling her to be nice nasty about it. Today, you would think that somebody could be a little bit more upfront about it. Hey, you a little bit too close for comfort. You would think that that would be okay to say, but as a woman, you just know that that's not the case. Women in today's society, in 2025, 2026 society, can be unalived because they made a man feel uncomfortable, or they made a man feel like he wasn't worthy. Do y'all know that any man that asks for my number, I give him my number? Why? Because the chances of that man flipping the fuck out and trying to harm me because I told him no, I don't know what the chances are. Too risky for me. I give my number to every single man who asks for it. It doesn't mean I'm gonna talk to him, but it means I'm gonna live to see another day, you know? And so it's little things like that where I'm like, yeah, Tyra probably said that, one, because she didn't want her to get the angry black woman label, two, because you don't want to ruffle any male feathers. Both are fucked up things. But a part of me can see why she did it. Another thing I do want to touch on fat shaming. I did a video on something similar a few months ago called You're Mid and That's Okay. If you're interested, I'll link it below. But in the video, I spoke about how society tends to exist in extremes. It's either black or white, or this extreme or that extreme. And because that's how a lot of people's minds work and that's how they view society, they expect everybody else to fit into either extreme as well. And there's hardly any room to exist in the middle. On America's Next Top Model, it is clear that super skinny is the standard. That's the modeling industry standard. And if you step even an inch out of that, then you're considered fat. The argument against this is often, well, we should just accept everybody at every size. Valid, we should. But when you look at something like the body positivity movement, they tell people that you have to be a certain amount of fat to even be considered fat. If you're not fat enough, they won't even let you in. It's the same type of discrimination, just going the other way. They'll say things like, well, I just want companies to show real bodies. What does that mean? Because I exist, they always say I exist in a bigger body. Okay, I exist in a smaller body. I am a naturally petite and slimmer person. What is a real body? My body is real. Last time I checked, I'm not an imaginary person. So like, what does that mean? It's divisive, just in a different way. And so I think just because the pendulum has swung the other way doesn't mean that it's inclusive. I think it's an illusion of inclusivity. The documentary also talks on how the show came to be. Y'all know I'm from LA, been around the entertainment industry just naturally my whole life. And so this was very interesting to me. I didn't know this. Tyra actually thought of it. So this show is truly her baby. And she actually referred to the show as payback. To all the modeling agencies who wouldn't accept her because she was black, to all the people who wouldn't let her walk their shows because she was black, it was payback.
It was my payback. You just have a magazine, I have a TV show. And so many people are gonna see way more of this TV show than your magazine.
I love that for her so much. She pitched the idea to every major studio in LA and every major studio said no.
They were like, oh no, reality? No.
One, because it was reality TV, but two, because it was reality TV about models and people thought that models were boring, basically. They don't eat, they don't have personalities, they just look pretty in pictures. And audiences don't want to see that, or so they thought. Failing station UPN took a chance on them and essentially changed the landscape of reality TV and quite honestly the modeling industry, for better or for worse. They did still have to fight good old classic American racism though.
You had one person of a different color, that was their definition of diverse. That was not my definition or Tyra's definition of diversity. We had to do the final casting with the president of Viacom, the parent company of CBS and UPN. We really wanted a Hispanic Latina girl on the show. And he did not want this Latino girl on the show.
And at the point where they decided to add Nigel, they chose him because he was a hot, straight white male. And the way that they framed it was they need a hot, straight white man to balance out the two gay Jays, the black Tyra, and the feisty Janice. I guess that's the way that they framed it. And no shade to Nigel Barker. The man is fine as hell. He still look good. So I see why he was chosen. And the show was essentially an overnight success. On the premiere night, Iman, only one of the most gorgeous women to ever grace this earth, wife of the late and great David Bowie, actually called J. Manuel and said, hey, we just watched this show. And David Bowie gave it a cosign. So I think they knew pretty quickly that the show was going to be iconic. And iconic it was. From this one show, we have some of the most used memes to this day. We learned how to smize and all sorts of things. I really do think that first cycle was something special. And I also think that most of the people, Tyra and production, went in with good intentions.
I think that you guys are the problem with America. I think you are the problem of why women are leaning over the toilets at this very moment and vomiting.
I really do think she was not just wanting to produce a show, but she was also trying to help us. Tyra was trying to teach us.
Maybe not Janice Dickinson, because I only believe that Janice was added to be the white woman that digs at the black woman, because that's all she did. That was her role.
It became sport for Janice to bait Tyra.
If the body could just slim down 150 pounds, that would be good.
Then she'd be 30 pounds.
That would be better.
It was definitely getting to her.
But Tyra did go head to head with her more than one time. So I think you could tell that she genuinely did want to make some changes. She even called up Shannon, who was the runner-up of Cycle 1, and said, hey, you could still get work. Get back to New York City. And so she went back to New York City, and she ended up getting signed by Ford, I think she said, which I don't know if Ford still is one of the top agencies, but it was. But as in most situations, two things can be true at once. I could say all that. They had good intentions, all of it. But their intentions didn't always actually come to fruition. Hearing Giselle say how excited she was because she was on Cycle 1, how excited she was to have the show come out. When she found out that there was a billboard of her in downtown LA, she essentially made business cards and started handing them out to the top modeling agencies because she was like, I didn't win, but here's my chance. They're going to see me modeling. They're going to see my good work on the show. And so let me get my face in front of them right now before the show comes out. And she thought that it would open doors for her. She truly did. And when it aired, it was her getting waxed on TV and her being shown as someone who's insecure. And Tyra saying that her ass was wide.
I like Giselle. I like Giselle because it just seems like she wants this.
But I think she needs to tighten up.
She got a wide ass.
It's kind of wide.
As someone who grew up during the reality TV explosion, I would say, I grew up with Flavor of Love. Flavor, Flav. I grew up with all that kind of stuff. I can look at that and say, girl, how could you not expect them to edit you that way? How could you not know that that was a risk you were taking by signing up to be on a reality TV show? Of course, that's a risk that you were taking. That's what reality TV is. But she didn't know that that was a risk she was taking because when Cycle 1 of America's Next Top Model came out, there weren't really that many reality TV shows. And also keep in mind that UPN was a regular TV station. This wasn't a cable station. So this was reality TV on a major station. They say that it wasn't major, but I think in my city, UPN was on Channel 13. And because that's where all the black shows were, I watched that station pretty heavily. So to me, it was a major station. However, it wasn't cable. This wasn't BET. This wasn't MTV. You were watching this on regular ass TV. Reality TV wasn't really the norm. And so, of course, in her mind, reality has the word real in it. This is going to be real TV. It's based on real things that are happening. She didn't know that they could take that footage and slice it and dice it and turn it into something that it's not. And that's exactly what they did. They made her look insecure and basically, like Tyra said, vapid.
There was a stereotype with models. Models are unsympathetic characters. They are vapid.
And I really do feel for her because you don't get to choose the type of edit that you get on reality TV. It's chosen for you. And if they see a storyline brewing, they're going to run with it because it's better for ratings. In an effort to keep those ratings up, post Cycle 1, the brief started to get crazier and more tone deaf. They were putting weave in the white girls' heads. They did a photo shoot where they dressed up as homeless people, and there were extras in those photo shoots. And in watching the documentary, I found out that the extras were actual homeless people, which is even wilder. Like, y'all pulled them off the street and was like, y'all want to make $5? Like, I don't know if I just made up that $5 part. But you know what I mean? Like, y'all just pulled them off the street and said you want to be a model, and I don't know, it's very bizarre. The quote where Tyra says,
it was a time in the world where there was a show Fear Factor and Survivor and all of these things of like pushing the limits and all of that. And so we kept pushing and we kept creating more and more and more. You guys were demanding it.
And I saw a lot of people saying, don't put this on us, Tyra. We didn't ask for this. We were kids. Okay, you might have been a child, but there were definitely young adults and actual adults watching this show. And so they were asking for it. by watching the show. The way that you ask for things in the media is by continuing to show up for it. When people complain that influencers are out of touch and they're flaunting their wealth in people's eyes, it's because you keep watching their videos. They're making more money the more times that you watch and share their videos. So you are showing that you support it by giving them your attention. That is how it is valued. So if it wasn't you, then it was your parents. Zeus Network is only kept alive because y'all keep watching it. So yeah, the brief started to get crazy, but y'all were still tuning in. And so they were showing people exactly what they wanted to see until they didn't want to see it anymore. I'm gonna be real though, that runway where they had to walk with the pendulum swinging, I didn't think that was that bad. Making them walk on water, I didn't think that was that bad either. I just thought it was fun. I still think that. But of course, there's the flip side to that. These girls were starving themselves in order to look as skinny as possible during the photo shoots. And so some of them developed EDs. And let's be very clear. EDs are not unusual in the modeling industry. And so it's not like America's Next Top Model created this. They perpetuated it. 100% perpetuated it. But they didn't make it be a thing. But Ken mocked saying that he loved seeing when people needed IVs because they weren't eating or drinking just to stay slim.
People have 104-degree temperature. They're throwing up. They need IVs. That's the best news I could ever have.
That was a crazy thing to say. I do think that in an effort to chase those ratings, people start to lose a little bit of their morals.
When I was 6 years old, my mom was shot by this guy. He was jealous that she was getting married and he ended up shooting her. That's why mom is paralyzed.
They knew about it from the application process, but they still chose to have me do this particular photo shoot that involved gun violence. I think they wanted to see some type of mental breakdown or, to see me crumble. I'm just glad that they didn't get the reaction that I feel like they were hoping to get.
And during cycle 4, they switched the girls' races. It's difficult for me to know how I felt about that when it happened because I was under 13 when this show came out. I don't really remember how I felt. I didn't even know if I had a good grasp on race issues or what blackface was at that time. Sure, I had learned about black history, but I didn't really, frontal lobe is a mere speck at that point. So I don't really think I had a good handle on any of that at that time. But hear me out. A part of me does see what Tyra was trying to do. Execution was poor as hell. But I think that she was trying to have it be a celebration of culture, a celebration of diversity. Like, I get the vision. It was never going to play out the way that it did in her head. This is one of those things that in your head it sound good, but you execute it, it's not good. It was one of those moments. And she should have went back to the drawing board, and she didn't do that. I kind of maybe see what she was trying to do, but it was never going to work.
What I don't hear a lot of people talking about really is the fact that they did it again.
Aaron, you're going to be Tibetan, like the Dalai Lama.
That was a choice. But Tyra, we've called you out now, and you're on notice. Stop trying to make fetch happen. And Manuel also spoke about how he felt like he was losing control as creative director over the photo shoots.
My parents are from South Africa. They grew up during apartheid. I'm very aware of that history. And I just said, race swapping? Wow. I first asked to be excused from the photo shoot. I recognized that my role was starting to have limitations. That shoot was happening regardless.
And so that's why he wanted to leave. And then they convinced him to stay. And when he came back, they completely removed all of his control. And it's like, but this is why I was leaving. All of that to say, yes, in an effort to keep their ratings up, whether intentional or not intentional, a lot of girls left this show with trauma. And Ebony was one of those girls. First off, I love the story that Ebony told about her great-grandmother.
Women would come into the beauty salon and my grandmother would say, "Oh, let me let you meet my great-grandbaby. Her name is Ebony. Tell her she's black and beautiful."
I was really, really close with my great-grandmother. She was my first best friend. And so that brought a tear to my eye. I was like, oh, that's just like nothing, no kind of love like a great-grandmother's love. Now, Ebony was the first black woman on America's Next Top Model, of course, because she was on cycle 1. She was literally the first one. And unfortunately, she got the black girl special. And I spoke about this earlier when we talked about the Tiffany situation, but Tyra was the acceptable black woman. Light skin, light eyes. And so thinking that a brown-skinned, bald black woman was going to be treated with the same respect that Tyra was treated with in the industry really is naive. It's unfortunate, but that's just not the reality of the situation. She was never going to be respected. Now, Tyra calling her ashy was uncalled for.
Tyra calls me, so I'm thinking that my sister is going to understand. And she says, "The judges have been talking to me and they've been saying that you have been showing up ashy every day."
She was dead wrong for that. And I think as a black woman, you know the weight that holds. You're essentially her boss. You're not her homegirl saying, girl, you need to put some lotion on. You're not that. You're her boss coming to her and basically telling her that she's underperforming at her job because she's ashy. To call a woman ashy is, I just feel like there were other ways for her to rectify that situation. Maybe by having some lotion on set or some body oil on set and having all the girls use it. Singling her out as the ashy black girl. What were you thinking, Tyra? Because in my opinion, saying to a black person that they're ashy is an insult. Because I think you as a black woman, you know the weight that carries. I don't expect any of my lighter skinned or brighter skinned people to understand because you can't really see your ash. And so it don't really hit the same for y'all. I try to make sure that I lotion the crevices of my hands every single time before I get on here because I don't want to be ashy because it's a real thing. Like you don't want to, I've done it before and I'm not re-recording because of ash. But yeah, I just feel like if you know, you know. I don't know who the hell these girls right here think they are. But baby, y'all wish y'all skin looked as good as Ebony's skin looks.
There's grease all over because of her new moisturizing regime. Ugh.
After you put the your stuff on, could you make sure you like thoroughly clean your hands? Just because it gets on the doorknobs and it's like slippery.
Okay, I'll try to concentrate on
I hope one of them slip on a cocoa butter stain. Also, I was very happy to see a cameo from Mayowa's World. Shout out to her. Ebony also experienced stylists not being able to do her hair, which is saying a lot. Because she didn't have that much to begin with, and all they were doing was shaving it off further, and they couldn't even find the right clippers. But I will say, that's also not something that's unique to America's Next Top Model. I've been on set. I used to be an extra. I feel like everybody in LA has worked for Central Casting at some point. I did as well to make a little bit of extra money. Them people on set did not know how to do my hair. Never knew how to do my hair. That's not something that's unique to America's Next Top Model. That's unique to the industry. It's unfortunate. I think it's starting to change now, but it's not unheard of. However, the cherry on top of the cake for me was Tyra referring to Ebony as the angry black woman. Because I feel like the only reason that trope exists is so that society gets to do whatever they want to black women. And then when black women speak up about it, they can say, oh my God, you're so upset. Why are you so angry? And it's like, no, you just want to be able to walk all over us. And you know that you could fall back on that trope and just say we're overreacting or we're being too much, like they did with Keenyah. Or she's just an, you know how they like to yell, you know how they are.
It can be hard with Ebony. She's very aggressive and very angry.
Ebony just is much too harsh for me. I just don't get it.
Ebony, when you come into the room, we sense a chip on your shoulder, a type of anger that makes you difficult to work with.
I firmly believe that that trope only exists so that it can be used against us as a form of oppression. Or you expect us to be strong black women because that's another trope that we have. Or if you're in the medical industry, you believe that it's scientifically backed that black women have a higher pain tolerance. That's a real thing that people in the medical industry believe to this day. And it's the reason that so many black women and babies die during childbirth or shortly after, because when black women say that they're in pain, doctors, nurses don't believe them because the ideology is that black women have a higher pain tolerance. They literally taught that in medical books during slavery and they still teach it now. We're not superhuman. We're literally humans like the rest of y'all. Words hurt us. We feel pain. So when I hear someone, especially another black woman, say, Ebony, you walk in here week after week with a chip on your shoulder. Yeah, maybe because week after week y'all sit here and y'all belittle her and y'all talk shit to her. Y'all call her ashy. Y'all tell her that she's leaving doorknobs greasy when she tries to fix the fact that she's ashy, and then y'all expect her not to complain about it. Maybe that's building up inside of her. In the words of Solange on A Seat at the Table, I got a lot to be mad about. So truly is fuck y'all and that trope that black women are angry, because I think y'all only use it as a form of oppression, and I'm standing 10 toes down on that. Next, I want to get into this dentist situation with Dani and Joni. They were both on cycle 6, and this is really when we saw the makeovers go from, oh, we're cutting or dyeing your hair, to we're going to perform actual medical procedures on you as part of a makeover, because that's what a dentist visit is. If you have work like what they're expecting them to get, it's a dental procedure. I honestly need to blame Janice Dickinson for what happened to Joni, because back in cycle 1, she had said that Shannon had too many teeth in her mouth and that she should have some of them removed.
It looks like you landed from another planet because you have so much teeth. Maybe she should have a few removed.
I think that the rest of the judges took that as a joke, but then a few cycles later, it actually happened to Joni. As someone who is genetically prone to dental issues, meaning I brush twice a day, I water floss, I floss, I do all the things, I'm still gonna have some issues. I've had my dentist tell me that. I have spent a lot of time, money, and years in a dental chair, orthodontist chairs, special surgeon's chairs. I spent a lot of time having mouth issues. When my wisdom teeth were removed, first off, I had 5 wisdom teeth removed. I had an extra one. So I had major surgery when I had my wisdom teeth removed because I had the 5 teeth, all 5 were impacted, and I had some type of infection that was happening underneath my gums. So I had major surgery when I had my wisdom teeth removed. And it took me a full calendar year to recover. Full calendar year. I'm not over exaggerating. I had so many complications after the fact that it literally took my mouth and my body a full calendar year to recover from having my wisdom teeth pulled. And I was so annoyed by that because everyone that I spoke to who had their wisdom teeth pulled kept saying, oh, you'll be down for like a day or two, but you'll be back eating, I was back eating crab legs the next day. No. Talk to me in 365 days. That's when I was back eating crab legs. And I also found out that some people only go under general anesthesia to get their wisdom teeth removed. Baby, they knocked me all the way out. I woke up like, who, what, when, where, and why is happening? I also developed TMJ afterwards. I can't chew gum to this day. Sometimes I get lockjaw. I grind my teeth, and I still have a baby tooth. It's actually really interesting. If you look at the x-ray of my mouth, you can still see my adult tooth. It's up here, horizontal. It never came down. So one of these pearly whites is a baby tooth. Can you guess which one? You'll never guess. All of that to say, I know dental issues, and I know the way that it's supposed to work at a dentist. You do not spring on someone that they casually walked in thinking they're maybe going to get 1 tooth pulled, and surprise, surprise, they're actually getting 4 pulled. That's a big deal. You know how much pain you were in? I don't care how much anesthesia, you know how much pain you're going to be in after having 4 teeth in 1 day pulled? So I really can't believe that dentist sat there and explained it to her so casually.
We will remove these 4.
Today?
Remove them today.
Oh.
I was young and kind of just along for the ride, but I had to sign a separate release right then and there too. Couldn't talk to my mom about it, couldn't call a lawyer or anything like that.
Also, anytime that I've had dental work done that's big like that, where they're gonna be going in and rearranging stuff, it's been months of conversation. And maybe that's just unique to me because like I said, I have a lot of issues going on, but I feel like if I walk into my own personal dentist office tomorrow and he tells me we're pulling 4 teeth before you leave this building, I'd be like, we need to discuss this. That's crazy. So I just feel like they couldn't have possibly explained that well enough for her to get a grasp on what it means and what the recovery would be. And look, I'm no orthodontist, but when I looked at her teeth from before, she did have that one little tooth that was kind of growing out instead of down. When I look at that, I'm like, I could see what they would have had to do is pull that, space her teeth out, and give her some braces to correct everything out because it seemed like she had like a bite issue. Clearly none of that happened. She didn't get braces, and so I'm like, what was this procedure? But yeah, I just feel like it wasn't properly explained to her, and therefore her teeth should have never been removed. She also says
there were many orthodontic problems that were never fixed. I've still got a crazy bite issue, and those issues will never be resolved.
And this is the point that I'm trying to drive home. I never did a video on this, but maybe I will at some point, even though I feel like the time has passed. A year or two ago, a bunch of people on TikTok were getting veneers and getting fake braces from these random people who were doing this work outside of their bedrooms, damn near. And the people who were getting the veneers were shaving down their actual teeth to then have these plastic veneers that people were ordering from Temu permanently glued onto their teeth. And they were shocked and appalled that they had dental issues after. And I'm confused. Again, I have more dental knowledge than most people, but I'm confused by that because how do you not know that shaving your tooth down is a dental procedure? I have a cap on one of my teeth. Spoiler alert, it's the baby tooth. That's why you never be able to tell because it looks like an adult tooth because what they did was shave down my regular tooth, my natural tooth, and glued a cap on tooth. I've had that done to me. Do you know why my dentist did that? Because that baby tooth, because it was so small, the nerves that were in it, clearly it just didn't line up to as I grew as an adult. The nerves were dead, no feeling. He would like hit it, I would feel nothing. He'd blast cold on it, I would feel nothing. It was basically a dead tooth. You shouldn't be going in and shaving down healthy teeth and gluing caps on them. Like, that's crazy to me. I don't know. I just think that's insane. And so her saying that she has these orthodontic issues does not surprise me. Yeah, when you start pulling teeth, that can affect everything else in your mouth. I've even experienced some of that. Like I said, I had 5 wisdom teeth pulled, and And even my teeth have started to shift back a little. Actually, I'm going to be getting Invisalign soon to try to catch that before it gets too bad. But yeah, if you don't keep up with stuff, and especially if you never had it done right in the first place, you're going to have issues. And it's not just, oh, my smile isn't straight. It's like, no, my bite is incorrect. I can't properly close my mouth. These are real problems. See, the real reason is y'all like to think that dentists are not doctors. Dentists are doctors. They went to medical school. Dental school, but they went to medical school. So letting somebody play around in your mouth, I'll never understand. And why America's Next Top Model allows someone to play around in Joni's mouth, I will also never understand that. So yeah, I really truly did hate that for her as someone who knows what that pain is like. But at least she had a sense of humor about it.
The next photo shoot that we did was actually the one where we were crying. I was like, I am in pain. This isn't hard.
I also really love that she still has her teeth. I kept most of my teeth that fell out or I had pulled out. Is that too much? Does that make me weird? I did. I haven't seen them in a while, but I bet I still have them somewhere. Now, on to Dani, because Dani went to that same dental office visit. And the reason that they sent her there is because they wanted her to close her gap.
There were agents that would tell me she will not work with those teeth. It's just not gonna happen. That's what they told me.
I do see both sides of the Dani situation. Again, this was a different time. I think at that time, for a lack of a better phrase, abnormalities were not accepted in the modeling world. Meaning, if you had a gap, if you were too short, if you were too big, if you had vitiligo, you weren't gonna be a model. You had to be stick thin and almost white. That was the standard. Now we see models with gaps and it's seen as exotic and unique. Now we see plus size models. Now we see models with vitiligo like Winnie Harlow, who by the way was on cycle 21 of America's Next Top Model. You see that now, but that was not the industry standard, and so somebody with a gap was seen as imperfect. And you can't be imperfect if you're a model. Now, Dani did choose to close her gap because basically they told her, look, if you don't close it, you're going home. And that is a little bit manipulative because you're telling her, well, do it or else. And it really is this feeling of do it or else. And she did fight against it.
The signature gap is staying in my mouth. That's who I am.
But ultimately decided to get the gap closed. All for them to turn around a few seasons later and widen this white girl's gap.
We'd love to exaggerate that and take you a little bit more to Lauren Hutton.
Make it as big as you want it.
Like, what do you just made her close her gap, now you're making somebody widen their gap? What are we doing? Because by that time, a gap was seen as exotic, so they wanted to accentuate it. And this really should be a newsflash to everybody that body standards and beauty standards are not real. It's all made up. It all ebbs and flows. Skinny could be in one day, BBLs were in until a few years ago, now they're not in anymore. Do what you want, because it's all gonna ebb and flow. I do love that today she has allowed her gap to naturally open up a bit more. It's not as wide as it used to be, but she still has that little gap. And I think she's one of the few people who actually look really good with a gap. So I love that for her. Of course, I cannot do commentary on this documentary without talking about the Shandi situation. First things first, I can't lie, they absolutely ate down with Shandi's makeover. I think she looks much better as the blonde. Even today, she still has that platinum blonde hair. She was definitely the girl in the movie that takes off her glasses and everyone's like, oh, she is hot. That was her. She even said she has the ugly duckling to beauty backstory. That was her story. Now, I have never heard Shandi's story from Shandi's point of view prior to this documentary. And so I want to be careful here, but I'm also going to say exactly what I'm thinking. And so if I haven't lost you yet, I might be getting ready to lose you right now. Firstly, I think that session that they had with that psychic was a bit much.
Yeah, I think what's going on with Shandi is Shandi needs family. Does anybody hug you? That's okay, Shandi.
Having that psychic ask Shandi in front of everybody and on reality TV, does anybody in your family hug you? Those should have been emotions that she let out during a therapy session, not in front of a room of essentially strangers. But I am happy that Miss J comforted her and consoled her in that moment, because that was rough. Now, in regards to her cheating, I'm going to say this. I think that you have a personal responsibility not to get blackout drunk and do things that you wouldn't normally do. That's a personal responsibility that we all have.
I think after getting out of the hot tub and whatever happened after that, I think they should have fucking been like, all right, this has gone too far. We gotta pull her out of this.
And the rule on Top Model was, if you went into a bathroom alone, a camera could not follow you in. But of course, when she went into the shower, she was technically not alone. So the cameras went in and they captured it. And then we got word, Shandi's having sex in the shower with a guy. I was like, wait, what?
I don't think that Shandi is saying that she feels the guy took advantage of her, although I'm getting a little bit of a feeling that she's saying that. But I do think that it is very dicey, because getting blackout drunk and having someone sexually assault you is one thing. Getting blackout drunk, having sex with somebody, and feeling bad about it later because you have a boyfriend and that means you cheated, that's a whole other thing. I think in Shandi's situation, it's the latter. I think she got blackout drunk, she had sex, and she regretted having sex because she cheated. People often confuse the two, and they're not the same thing. While I don't personally feel like Shandi was SA'd, I do feel like she was violated. In particular, by production, because they should have had the human decency to cut the cameras off. Again, while you have a personal responsibility not to get blackout drunk, I feel like as human beings, we have a responsibility to help another human being when we see that they're in a situation that they might regret later. And I actually have stopped someone from engaging in sex when I thought that they were a little bit too drunk. You know, I used to get white girl wasted with my white girl friends, and one of those nights, you know, crazy college kid, or not, I don't even know. We were in college, but like fresh out of high school. We went out one night to Saddle Ranch. I think we rode the bull. We did the whole thing. We went home with these guys. We were all fucking wasted, okay? But she was like really wasted. I was like the less wasted one because we always tried to keep it balanced. It was my best friend at the time. And these guys were cute. We went back to like their little frat house. And I knew that she was too drunk. She was single at the time, so she wouldn't have been cheating. But I was like, it's given she might want to have sex with him, but I'm going to allow her to make that decision sober. And so when we got back to the house, I went to the guest room because I wasn't interested in anybody else. I mean, they were hot, but like, I wasn't interested in having sex with anybody. She was kissing on this guy. They were making out, and so it could have led somewhere, but I pulled her aside and I said, hey, do you want to have sex with this guy? Because like, I'm stepping the fuck back. Like, if you want to do it, girl. I'll be here. But if you don't, let me know. I'm pulling you out of it. And so I could have let her do that. Whatever, she's a grown woman, right? But as her friend, I wasn't going to sit there knowing that she was drunk and wasted and be like, girl, go do you, girl, unless that was something that we discussed. You know what I mean? At the very least, I feel like somebody, if not production, somebody should have stepped in and said, girl, don't you got a man? Are you sure you want to do that? It would have been that easy. And so I feel like Shandi was violated in that way, in that no one stood up for her. Again, her responsibility, but like, where does the humanity come in at? And then on top of it, production also had a further responsibility to stop recording. The fact that that footage still exists somewhere, I'm sure they didn't destroy it or burn it down. The fact that that still exists somewhere is unacceptable. It shouldn't exist. It shouldn't have ever existed. And the excuse that Ken Mont gives for it is weak, in my opinion.
We treated Top Model as a documentary. And we told the girls that on day one, when they would show up, we would go over the rules with them. There's going to be cameras with you 24/7, day in and day out, and they're going to cover everything, the good, the bad, and everything in between.
Okay, you're shooting it like a documentary, but it's not a sex tape, so why are you recording someone have sex? This isn't Bad Girls Club, which, by the way, didn't even exist when Shandi's Cycle of America's Next Top Model came out. So they weren't even trying to be Bad Girls Club. They were just doing this just to do it. This is a show about the modeling industry. What are y'all doing? And then to, on top of it, record the conversation that she had to have with Eric, who was her boyfriend, about the fact that she had cheated on him. Where was the humanity in that? He was devastated. She was devastated. That was a private moment. And to not only record that, but then put that in the final cut of the show, at what point do the many eyes that this footage goes through before it's approved, who steps in and says, yeah, maybe we shouldn't do this? Maybe this is too much for the ratings. But I am happy that the cameraman and the mic man who recorded it stayed after and said, we're so sorry that we had to record that. You know, it's part of our jobs, they told us to. I'm glad they at least showed humanity in that moment.
It was just a sound guy and the guy filming. Afterwards, I'm just like laying on the floor, like get up to leave, and they both came up to me and they said, we're really, really sorry that we had to film that. They just knew that, like, this isn't right.
But to hear that her and Eric tried to get back together after the fact, and people were walking up to her on the street and slut-shaming her, is absolutely insane to me.
We tried. They really tried. I mean, he moved with me to New York after the show. I'd be walking with Eric down the street and somebody recognized me and called me a slut to my face, or a cheating whore. Eric standing right next to me.
All of that for what? She made a mistake. Okay, she got wasted, she cheated. It sucks, but it is what it is. It's not that big a deal for y'all to be coming up to this woman and slut-shaming her while she's with her man. Some people are very lucky that the shit they did and the fuck-ups that they made happened before social media and that they weren't on reality TV for it, because there's a lot of holier-than-thou people. Everybody has been young and done some dumb shit at some point, so I just don't understand acting like you're better than anybody. It's just that no one's ever gonna see it because it wasn't recorded. And And Tyra wasn't much better because she did an America's Next Top Model reunion on her talk show. And during that episode, Shandi said, yeah, I've never watched it. And Tyra, who again, this is her talk show, so I'm assuming she's producing it, chose to show the hot tub scene. Like, what a fucked up thing to do. She cheated on her boyfriend and lost her relationship because of that. And you want to make her relive that moment? Like, that's a shitty thing to do.
Dani, you weren't watching that. I saw you looking down. How come you can't watch that?
I just can't do it.
Really? It brings back like all the old stuff.
Oh yeah.
I think Shandi's story is such an unfortunate depiction of what can happen to people after they leave the show. And it's a good representation of the lack of aftercare that they get. Tyra said that one day she was watching American Idol and she wondered, oh, I wonder what happened to Kelly Clarkson once she left. And so you would think that having that forethought to think that way, when she created her own show, she would have put a little bit more thought into what happens to the girls when they leave America's Next Top Model. But she didn't do any of that. She just let them go back home, and that was that.
No one wanted to book me for their shows because I was viewed as like this reality star, and designers didn't want me walking in their show to take attention, if you will, off of their collection and onto myself.
And listen, I get the stigma. I understand why reality TV has a stigma of being trashy. We call it trash TV. That's what it is most of the time. And so because of that, you're seen as a lower tier model, even if that's not the case. I think Brie nailed it when she said this.
Before it is a modeling show, it is a television show.
And this is actually a point that I stress. And I think what Keenyah says about not being able to use the photos because they were too overly produced is also very interesting.
The photo shoots were way overly themed, way too much makeup. I got really far in this competition, but then in real life, I was in the modeling industry, was nobody.
What I would expect is that even if you don't win the show, you should be able to take these photos that you've taken and put that towards your portfolio. Especially if you made it to the top 5, you should be getting modeling gigs left and right if you made it to the top 5 of America's Next Top Model. But it turns out those photos couldn't even be used because, again, they're gimmicky. I just don't think it's right to pull people away from their lives, and then when they don't win, you shoo them off and say, okay, go back to working at McDonald's or Walgreens or whatever it was you were doing before you came to this show. Like, no, they came here thinking they were going to be models. You can't just send them back off with no guidance. I will say though, this isn't unlike American Idol. How many winners of American Idol went on to have a singing career of substance? Not that many. Let's see. Kelly Clarkson, Clay Aiken, maybe for a little bit. Ruben Stunner, Fantasia. That's the only, and Carrie Underwood. Those are the only 5 that I could think of. Not too many of them are relevant names today. And so I think it is kind of the nature of these win a prize type shows that, yeah, they're not doing much for you at the end of the day, even if you do win. Tyra also made a great point in saying that these days with social media, that barrier of entry has really been lowered because almost anybody could post a picture to Instagram and boom, they're a model. In fact, that's how Anuki I was discovered. I believe that's how I say her name. Someone took a photo of her during Howard's homecoming. I mean, she's gorgeous, look at her. And now she's walking the carpet at the Met Gala. She's on the cover of Vogue France, all because of a picture on Instagram. So that barrier to entry is a lot lower these days. And so maybe America's Next Top Model today wouldn't really have that same stigma. I don't know. I still think you have that reality TV part of it, but who knows?
I feel like my work is not done. You have no idea what we have planned for cycle 25.
I do want to touch a bit more on the corporate influence of it all, because at one point Tyra was pressured by the higher ups to let go of the 2 gay J's and Nigel Barker because new leadership came in, and that's just the name of the game.
The head of the network said, the show is in a mature phase and we need to make a significant change.
You have to let go of Mr. J, Miss J, and Nigel.
It shocked me. I was like, what? There was no need to replace them.
Probably extremely frustrating for J. Manuel because he tried to leave and they got him to stay one more season, and one more season turned into 10 more seasons, and then they let him go. So it's like, why didn't y'all just let me leave when I want to leave? But such is corporate America. J. Manuel also spoke about when he tried to leave and how Tyra, basically she didn't respond. It took her 72 hours to respond, and when she responded, the only thing she said was, I'm disappointed. And that was it, and that was all. And that when he decided to go back to the show, she wouldn't talk to him off camera. So basically they only had a working relationship.
On camera, we learned to play, laugh, but it was just clear I was not allowed to speak with her outside of that. It was like psychological torture.
And interestingly enough, this is the only thing that Tyra would not talk about during this documentary.
Can we talk now about what happened with you and Jay?
I prefer, I should call Jay. I don't want to do this here. Yeah, but he's a special man.
I think that should speak to the magnitude of the falling out that they had because, yeah, she would not touch that conversation with a 10-foot pole. I wonder if she ever made the call. Tyra kept mentioning that there were no sacred cows.
And the big boss was very clear. There are no sacred cows.
Meaning anybody could be let go for any time at any reason, including the person who created the show, meaning Tyra herself.
After cycle 22, the network came back to me and said, we don't want Tyra to be the host of the show. And I'm like, you're crazy. She is the show.
And the interesting thing about that to me is that Tyra understands how cutthroat the modeling industry is. But even after 22 seasons of America's Next Top Model, she didn't seem to understand how cutthroat corporate America is. In corporate America, a CEO will call for mass layoffs if they didn't like their breakfast that morning. It's something that companies not have always done. They used to actually care about their employees, but it's something that companies have done for a long time now. I mean, you can go on LinkedIn any given day and see that for yourself. And I hear what Jay Manuel was saying about the fact that he feels that the station should have handled them being let go with more care because they still have to work in this industry. And I agree with him. They released this news to the tabloid. Are they still called tabloids? I don't know. But they released this news to the tabloids and the tabloids started framing it as they're being fired. They were fired. Oh, they're angry. Tyra's mad at them.
Oh my God.
There was a leak to Page 6 that said the three of us were fired.
Banks booted judges Nigel Barker, Jay Manuel, and Miss J in a stunning top model house cleaning.
I said, ooh. A leak to Page 6? That show, the way we ran confidentiality and we're on these conference calls, there's no leak to Page 6.
And he was saying, hey, y'all are painting us in a bad light like we did something wrong. This is going to make it really hard for us to get work later. And I hear him. But again, I point to how cutthroat corporate America is. They don't care. They'll let you go with no severance and say, good luck, if they even say that. I was so happy to see that all three of their careers did thrive after ANTM.
I shot an entire book with Taylor Swift. I ended up working with Miss Universe and Miss USA.
I ended up with a contract with E! I did a cosmetic company, and eventually I wrote a novel.
Jay has just been off on a top model tour. I went out to do top model Russia, China as well.
I think that Miss J was one of the first openly gay men that I ever saw. And I'm so thankful for that because I loved how vibrant he was, how unapologetic he was. That's one reason why I can't understand being homophobic, because how could you look at this fabulous absolute diva and be like, no, that's gross. Like, I just don't understand how you could do that. I don't think my brain ever had the opportunity to be homophobic, truly. Even when I was a kid, I knew those legs were something serious. And I've always thought that his runway walk is one of the best runway walks that I've seen to date.
You need to be able to slinky ink down the runway. If you can't slinky ink, you may look stinky stink. I'm gonna show you how to walk in a tight skirt.
I just love him. I was so sad to hear that he had a stroke. I know that had to nearly break him. His walk and his voice are so much a part of his personality. I mean, his walk is fucking iconic. And I cannot imagine what it felt like waking up in a hospital room and someone telling you, yeah, you can't walk or talk right now. And you're gonna have to learn how to do all of that over again. Absolutely devastating. And I am wishing him a full recovery. I wanna see that walk another day. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this documentary. Like I said, I definitely think I'm gonna have some unpopular opinions just based on how I've seen people react to the trailer. So I cannot wait to hear y'all thoughts on this. Until then, I will see y'all later. Bye! Hey Siri, set an alarm for 7. Never mind. Girl, you know what? One thing I'm about to do is make sure that this is recording. Because if I get all... Okay. Because listen, y'all don't even know the amount of times that I have recorded an entire... And this one is long. That I have recorded an entire video. And I hooked that SanDisk card up to my computer. And it ain't no sound. Bitch, I want to fight. And I don't even fight. Helicopter, helicopter.